I remember when I was 16, or I think I was 15, in COVID, I read a book called Life 3.0. And this was a very interesting book. I should just take this off. This was a very interesting book because it kind of talked about life after AI and all that stuff. Now, this was in 2020. AI really wasn't the buzzword that it is right now. Obviously, GPT didn't exist. It was 2 or 3 years before it. Damn, GPT's been around for a long time. But I remember reading the book, and the conclusion that it kind of drew, and it's been a while, so this is not like verbatim, is that eventually AI is going to get so good that it's going to replace all the jobs, it's going to replace all the media, just because an AI is going to be infinitely smarter when it comes to what humans would like to consume in terms of media, so movies, TV shows, whatever, as opposed to like human creativity. And I believed it at the time, but it's becoming more and more abundantly clear to me that something within humans is just opposed to AI created content. I don't know what it is, which is kind of where the title of this video comes in, where it's honestly like genuinely getting to the point where Instagram is just a competition. And I'm talking about info products specifically, so I'm not talking about memes and reels that are like funny and all that. I'm talking about people that are trying to monetize their knowledge. It's really just a competition on who could use AI in the most human way, as in, this is still going to be AI, but let me at least try to make it seem like it's not. And there's kind of like a spectrum, right? Depending on who your niche is and all that stuff, you could get away with just straight up, just like literally AI slop. M dashes, the emojis and everything. But the smarter your audience is, the more you kind of veer towards, let me write the main concepts and kind of give it a couple of pointers so it doesn't use the M dashes, it doesn't use the emojis, kind of sound a bit less AI-y, but you could still tell. I don't know if it's just me, but I can literally tell straight away whether or not like a post has been written with AI or not. And something within me, and I've noticed this with other people as well, just makes me repulsed, and I skip away straight away, even if I feel like there's going to be value. It's just something within me says, no, I don't want to read this. Which is pretty interesting because the whole bet is that AI is going to replace media. AI is going to be the source of all knowledge, and it's going to be, it's going to eventually create music. I don't listen to music, but, it's going to be a big industry, and it's eventually going to create movies and TV shows, and they're going to be so much better than what humans can think of. But it's becoming abundantly clear that this is just not the way forward. Now, I do sales for... I'll just say I do sales, right? And I have access to the Instagram account because sometimes I'll send in messages saying, hey, basically qualifying leads and trying to get them to book a call. And I remember I messaged a guy once because he followed us. So I'm like, hey, thanks for the follow. Like, are you looking to get extra help, whatever? And he's like, hey, I just had a look at your Instagram and I'm actually going to unfollow because you guys use AI. So I'm like, it's pretty weird. So I take a screenshot and I send it to the boss. I'm like, hey, this might be something you want to look at. He's like, just make sure, just ask him what it is that kind of caught his eye in terms of AI. He replies, he's like, yeah, it's the graphics that you guys use. So not me because I'm not on the marketing team, but they'll create like graphics that are, you can kind of tell that the AI generate, but they still look pretty unique to us. And that made him unfollow. He's protesting. He's saying, hey, even though you guys provide value, even though you guys teach me, the account teaches Arabic, even though you guys teach me Arabic and I'm trying to learn Arabic, I'm going to unfollow you just because you use AI. Now, that might be an extreme example, but let's listen to the market. Humans don't want AI-generated content. I think it just comes back to the fact that it just comes off as lazy. But then again, you can think about the analogy I always think about, which kind of, this is me critically challenging myself. The analogy I always think about is yeah, sure, we prefer handmade stuff, but I'm gonna buy a Toyota that's factory made if it's cheaper and more reliable than a freaking handmade luxury car or whatever, right? Especially if the riding experience is the same. Obviously Toyota and a Rolls Royce are gonna be the same, but you kind of get the concept. People are gonna settle for machine made cars over handmade cars. And the same thing with other appliances and vehicles and whatever. So I'm trying to think, okay, if we do that, if we settle in one industry, why can't we settle in another? But I think the idea is creativity. It's not necessarily the actual assembly. Like for that reason, I don't think if I see like an AI generated website, you can kind of tell when something's cloud coded. It doesn't repulse me as much as if I read AI text or I see an AI video. Like that generally like repulses me. I'm like, oh, I don't wanna look at this. But if there's an AI generated website that has the same function and it's not buggy and like it gets the job done, I'll use it. So I think that's kind of, you know, the answer to me challenging myself. But yeah, the way I see it, like I don't think AI media is going to replace human media. I think when it comes to the question of creativity, we're always going to rely on humans. And I think the people that do the best, and I've been doing this as well, with my own copywriting, I'm not going to use any AI except because I'm not the best when it comes to like grammar, punctuation, whatever. So I'm literally just going to pass it through Claude to say, hey, like, are there any grammar mistakes? Are there any punctuation mistakes? But like in terms of the actual writing, I'm not going to use AI, and that's going to help you stand out. It's gonna be very clear in the long run. I think it's going to come off as more authentic. And at the end of the day, like that's what education is, right? Like education is not necessarily me giving you generic contents, it's not me giving you generic advice. The reason why info products sell so well, think about a weight loss program, for example. It's not necessarily because like the info is not out on the internet. It's because this person has built a brand in such a way that it seems like they have new ideas. They have a new approach, even though it might be the same concept. My hair kind of looks weird. Even though it might be like the same concept that's already out there for free. And there's also like the personalization elements and all that stuff. And that personalization element, you can only get it through human interaction. So yeah, looking at the future of AI as someone who is younger, because I always listen to podcasts, especially like my first million, and they're always talking about, oh, AI is so great, I'm like automating my whole life. Automation obviously is beneficial, but it seems like they're relying on it a bit too much. So I'm just looking forward, and I don't think it's going to replace creativity. I don't think it's going to replace stuff like marketing. And this is a thought I've been kind of developing in my mind for the past couple of months, which is marketing is actually one of the safest industries or safest services when it comes to AI. Because think about it this way. The way an LLM works, and I'm not an expert by any means, but I'm sure this is true, is that it's trained on as much data as possible. And then based on that, it's basically like the average of all the best data, right? It's like the average of all the best data. And then we all have access to the same LLM. Which means, before we draw any conclusions, let's define what marketing is. Marketing is drawing attention to your product or service, right? So drawing attention means you need to stand out. But if you're using generic LLMs that everyone has access to, LLMs that are trained on, all the data out there, so they're basically like an average of all the data, then you're going to have a bunch of similar strategies, basically. Which is why, like, AI copy, whether it's on email or just an ad, isn't going to do as well as authentic, branded copy. Because it has that difference, like the human creativity that's going to make it stand out. Which is why, in my mind, marketing is going to be safe. Because you're always going to need a human to kind of divorce you from all the AI slop and produce a strategy or produce copy or produce whatever that allows you to stand out. If you gave, I've been thinking about this, which is human creativity is actually expressed really well through Instagram Reels. And I'm talking, okay, in this case, I'm talking about like, the Reels that are funny and get a bunch of shares and comments. And almost always they're not AI ideas. It's always human creativity, which is why we find it funny, which is why we want to share it and so on. For example, if you get AI to write you a joke, I can guarantee that it's not going to be funny, right? It's just not going to be funny. Because humor is, kind of building up tension and then, releasing it in an unexpected way. But anyways, it's been a 10-minute ramble of this idea that I've had. Maybe it's cope. Maybe it's me not seeing the future. But from my perspective, I think AI is going to be really useful when it comes to automations, when it comes to, technical stuff, taking away the burden of sitting down and writing 1,000 lines of code. But when it comes to stuff like copywriting, when it comes to stuff like creativity, creative endeavors, media, it's not going to win. And you've seen that more and more now, where people are actively protesting against AI. Whenever something is made with AI, especially if the audience is younger, so like millennials, Gen Z, you open the comments and everyone's going to say, AI slop. I remember this, to wrap this up. I got an ad recently, and the ad is basically a service that helps you grow your jiu-jitsu gym. I don't have a jiu-jitsu gym, but it showed up on my feed anyways. And it caught my eye because the whole video from start to finish was AI generated, as in like the people in the video, obviously the script and everything. It was like a fully AI generated ad. And listen, maybe the ad did well. I don't have access to like the performance obviously, but the comments were all like AI slop, AI slop. So I mean, why do people feel the need to comment? It's a form of protesting. It's a form of saying, hey, like, stop this. But yeah, that's my thoughts about AI 4 years in. I don't think it's going to replace media specifically. And yeah, Instagram's just turning into a cesspool of who can use AI in the most discreet way.